Hey everyone, welcome to Vintage Guitar Legacies. I'm your host, Sarah James. We're excited for this really very special episode featuring master musician and performer, Mr. Bill Dutcher, to discuss and demo the Harp guitar. Let's dive in. Wow, Bill Dutcher, amazing. What a fantastic demonstration that was.
Sarah, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
Really appreciate the fact that you're here with us. So,
Well, I really appreciate what you're doing to nurture the history of vintage instruments, as we see here, we have here, and kind of explaining to people the backstory on where these instruments came from. And as we've kind of talked briefly, you're kind of the guitar whisperer, helping save these instruments. So I applaud in what you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So speaking of guitar legacies and so forth, what is this? And how did you ever get into it?
Great question. And first off, this is called a harp guitar. And these are just a beautiful, unique instrument that kind of combines elements of a regular six-string guitar with the extended range of these, what they call sub-basses. And these are basically just acoustic strings that are thicker in gauge but tuned down into the bass register. The idea for the harp guitar originated in the late 1800s. A immigrant named Chris Knutson came over from Norway, immigrated to Minnesota. Right around
Norwegian bachelor farmer.
Yeah, okay. So he came here, and there's not a lot of history on his occupation, but he was, by trade, an instrument builder as kind of a passion and a hobby. So he kind of came up with the design that his first design didn't have these extra strings on it. It just had this extra arm that came to a point, and it didn't have a secondary headstock. In his design back then, it was kind of labeled as the one-armed guitar. The reason why is that this extra tone chamber provided more volume on stage and had a louder sound to it. You know, back then we didn't have PA systems, so it made sense. It helped amplify the instrument in the venues. And I think just by trial and error, he started experimenting with adding tuners to the top and then put a headstock on. And then these extra sub-basses kind of came prevalent on these instruments. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wow. So it was a big transition for you, going from guitar to this? I mean, you've added a whole other dimension.
It's
like 3D chess,
it's
right?
a whole different learning experience. Now, where did the inspiration come from? Acoustic players might know the name Michael Hedges. He was very proficient on this instrument. It's the first guy I saw play one, and after seeing him play, I said, I really want to have one of those. I got to have one, right? So my journey started exploring more about harp guitars, and I found a website called harpguitars.net run by a gentleman named Greg Miner, and he is all things knowing and seeing about harp guitar. This guy knows an extensive history. And that's a great website that chronicles the building history of Chris Knutson and how just the society influenced these instruments over time and how they kind of became popular and how they kind of went away when Hawaiian music became the rage. And around the 30s. And then that's when we see the Hawaiian guitars, the Weissenborns and the Kona guitars come in. Well, Knutson jumped on that bandwagon, and he did make some of those instruments. And some of those Hawaiian slide guitars, the ones you kind of play like this, you know, some of them kind of have those harp strings on them. They're just very interesting.
Do you have a Weissenborn?
I do have a Weissenborn. I have an old 1927 style 2.
Wow.
And it's a beautiful instrument. I love it. The concept behind these is, again, we have just our regular guitar over here. And it is tuned in standard tuning. But the sub basses, there is no set standard tuning for these sub basses. But as I have learned from talking to other performers, Most harp guitars are outfitted with 5 or 6 sub basses. This one is built by a company in Ireland called Emerald Guitars, and this is their model called a Synergy. This is all carbon fiber. There's no wood on this instrument, and it is the perfect working instrument for Arizona.
For Arizona, right? Yeah.
It is. As you know, we have triple-digit, temperatures in the summer, lack of humidity. I can take this out on a hot patio gig, and it does not budge. It's great working instrument. So this one, I had an extra sub bass added to it. My sub basses, I just go alphabetically backwards from the low E string. So I've got from E, I go D, C. That's a B, A, G, F, and E. So you can hear this walking right up the scale. Now, what do you do with this? Well, there's no instructions for these things. I would start to hear tunes on the radio and start to jump into arranging them. And I started off with some Beatles tunes and got into some more rock tunes and just trying to think outside the box with this thing and use it in ways that would sound different. But my first challenge was to get this right hand down. As guitar players, we are used to doing, working with these 6 strings. Okay, but all of a sudden now I've got to pivot this thumb even over here. So I've got this range that I need to internalize with muscle memory so I can do it without looking. When I first started playing this thing, my kids were really young. I would go into when they would go to bed at night, and I would close the door, turn the lights out, and pitch black and sit on their bed and play this thing and try to learn and feel where my thumb was, And through just repetition, I got comfortable with it. So the next step, what I learned was to kind of do this root fifth in the bass thing where you're going a C chord, and I could play that C sub, but then I can, sometimes we do this on the guitar. We go, and we move that C over to the G there. We get that kind of a Travis picking this. Well, I can kind of move that motif over here by going, and all of a sudden, I'm a bass player and a guitar player at the same time. Wow. So when that light bulb went off, I was like, I see the compositional potential with this instrument. What I found out right after that was that you need to think like a piano player, because this is the left hand of the piano. I look at it that way. So I can hit this, there's my left hand, and I can, while that G was pedaling below there. Problem is, we get all these strings will resonate and perpetuate. So your wrist becomes that pedal that piano players use. There's my mute. So I can go mute, pick, mute, pick, mute. Now I get more staccato bass rather than this. All right, if I mute. So that took about 6 months to get that out.
Very cool.
So that, in a nutshell, is kind of the right-hand approach, if you will.
Yes. It's a beautiful instrument.
They are. And like I said, this is a carbon fiber, all one-piece design. This one particular, I have 2 electric pickups in it. Yeah. I find that the electric pickups only listen to the strings. Therefore, I get a really good separation between the 2 signals. And what I tend to do is I run a stereo jack out of the instrument here with a stereo Y cable, and I process each pickup separately. Then I'm able to EQ each one and put chorus on the bass strings and reverb and delay on the guitar side. So you hear more of a separation between the 2. The Davis here, this was built, I commissioned J. Thomas Davis, who's a luthier from Columbus, Ohio. And I commissioned him to build this in 2002. And this is based off of the Dyer harp design. The Dyer brothers were builders at the time of Knudsen, and they were building harp guitars. And I found the blueprints on the internet at the Guild of American Luthiers for a harp guitar.
Really?
And I took the blueprints to Tom, and I said, I want one of these. And this was back in 2002.
And you just got it back, right? Yeah.
Well, as you can see, this one's been around the block a few times.
Yeah.
This is my working instrument.
Yeah.
This is a wonderful instrument with an Engelmann spruce top, Claro walnut back and sides.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
Walnut neck, zircote fretboard and bridge. And this one, as you can see, has just the traditional 6 sub basses. So on this one, I've got F, G, A. I use a B flat, C, D. That's that beat. Some people use a B. B flat just sits better for me. But so with those, you can. Very rich, deeper sound. Obviously, this is wood. That's composite. They're 2 different animals, but
it's hypnotic.
Yeah,
it just pulls you right into the music.
Yeah.
And you feel that vibration and that, that whole feel about it.
I do. Again, from my perspective here, my rib cage is just. I love it. I love it. And. Yeah, they're just very unique instruments. It's something early on in my playing career, I was intrigued when I saw Michael Hedges play one. At that time, I was working in music retail in a shop that had a in-store luthier, Tom, the guy that built this guitar. And just through those being in the right place at the right time, I made connections and was able to make this.
Where did you see Michael?
I never saw him play.
Really?
I've never saw him play. Being a full-time performer, every time he came to town, I was gigging.
Oh man,
but man,
that sucks, doesn't it?
It does.
It seems to happen. So that's why I never get to see you because I'm out playing.
Yeah, right. We're all playing all the time.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but I've worn out his recordings. I've seen all the videos. I've talked to people that were there. I've got bootlegs that people that have recorded at shows and stuff. But he definitely was an influence.
I saw Michael Hedges in Pittsburgh. At the Rosebud, not very too much longer before he was killed in a car crash, and it was otherworldly. Yeah. It was just what he conveyed, what he's able to project with his being, his heart, and his spirit, and that instrument. Yeah. So I think that's probably what draws you into it too, because you do convey a lot of passion and energy through the instrument.
Absolutely. I mean, it is a connection.
It allows you to really project that out. Yeah.
It is a conduit to what's in here.
Exactly.
Right. It is. Yeah. It really is.
Bill Dutcher, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate. I am enthralled with this thing.
Thank you, sir.
It's an incredible instrument. It's just you. I mean, you just feel your heart, your spirit come through.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Bill, for being here with us on another episode of Vintage Guitar Legacies. Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel and take us out, Bill Dutcher.
Thank you.